On tonight's program, we discuss the legacy of Romulus Beta.
I think we have heard we're not getting anything at launch for the Foundry. I think, in all the interviews, they've been pretty plain about that.
We tackle the sticky subject of exploits.
One warning, after that, your account will be banned.
And we finally have someone of an international persuasion in our studio.
You've got this Canarian captain who's lost in a shuttle. You've got to try and help him figure out and find out where his ship's got to.
Join us on the Foundry Roundtable. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. I'm your tame Foundry author, Drogan1701. With me is Women's Field Hockey Assistant Coach of the Year, Hippiejohn.
Wow, I like my new job.
And very successful at it, apparently. We have Greendragoon, who moonlights as a singer-songwriter under the pseudonym Taylor Swift.
Wait, hang on. One more minute. Okay, whatever you just said, I vehemently deny it.
And Markhawkman, who is in no way responsible for hacking the Associated Press's Twitter account.
Correct.
And we have with us a guest, Foundry author Bluedarky.
Hi.
Who brings an international flavor to our podcast tonight. Where are you from, Blue?
England.
England, excellent.
Yeah.
All right. We start tonight with a bit of news, which I think we will have Hippiejohn talk about. Tell us about the 28-hour Foundry contest.
Last week 4 days ago, actually, Cerberus Films and Starbase UGC ran essentially it was supposed to be a 24-hour Foundry contest and turned into a 28-hour contest because that's when, when Cerberus got it up on the forums with all of the, it has to include this, it has to include that. And, I believe it was 7 or 8 different authors, a couple of first-time authors, a couple of people who've made 1 or 2 missions. I made one just because I wanted to see what I could do in 24 hours or so. And I think it was 7 or 8 people made a bunch of missions that are now sitting in my mission journal that as soon as I decide, hey, it's time to play a Foundry mission right now, they're on my list of things that I'm going to go play because I know I had a blast doing it for sure. And
there were
just
a couple of very, very good ones in there.
And I believe the winner gets spotlighted this week, is that right?
K.R. Walcott. And, the name of the mission that he wrote was, Sword of the Kuvama.
Yep.
Sword of the Kuvama, and apparently it was really, really good.
It was. I actually got to be a judge on the
Were you the one who ran his mission?
Oh, we actually all ran it together.
Oh,
we
awesome.
did it as a group.
Very cool.
It wasn't a particularly long mission. It was basically a 3-map mission. The story was pretty light, but the ground portion, which was taking place on board this starship, was all custom interior and very well done for 28 hours.
Very, very cool.
I just say I got the other the list of winners here. Let's see. His was the overall best winner. Best combat was Distress Signal by Cormac
which is
Blue.
The one I played.
Best first time author was Bleeding Heart by G. Wilson 3. Best non-first time author was The Alhena Incident by Hippiejohn.
The only KDF entry.
His mission was too high level for all of us, and we had to call him Bazag.
Can't believe after all this time, all these people don't have KDFs up that high.
All they needed was a level 35.
Let's see. Runner-up was Before and After by Seth Power 121.
This was actually another really good mission.
Yeah. Honorable mention was Rescue 101 by Relum Time 82.
I will say from an author standpoint, it was a hell of a lot of fun. Like, I decided that I don't have time in my mind. I said, I don't have time to do anything. I can maybe make one map look really cool or do something complex and fun with it. And so that's all. I focused like the first much of what I did, the first biggest bunch of time on making that one map look really cool. Basically the first map of the the mission is almost a beat for beat recreation of the daily mission that you can get in the Eridani sector called Defense Contract, which takes place at Alhena. It's where you help that Ferengi defend his deuterium processing plant. And I did an almost, my thought was, because both KDF characters and Federation characters can get that distress signal and go do that daily, was, what if? Because the rules of the contest were it has to include a conflict for either the Federation or the KDF, and has to include, if it's a Federation mission, a character called Commander Hart, and if it's a KDF mission, a character called Ambassador Ferret. So my thought was, what if both a KDF ship and a Federation ship responded to the distress signal at the same time, while their two sides are ostensibly at war? The KDF player ends up defeating all of the Cardassians that normally appear in that mission, all of the True Way ships, and destroying a Federation sovereign class, which leads to an international incident, or a diplomatic incident, interstellar diplomatic incident, because the Ferengi Trade Consortium holds sway over that ground, and so the player has to go before a Ferengi court, which of course, is not at all like a court. Baz insists on calling it a bar, because I built it in a bar. It was a Ferengi courtroom in a bar. And
I'd go with a bar court.
I did a completely custom build because I made a Ferengi courtroom and I did.
Yeah, I was honestly.
You were pressed for time for sure. So.
Pressed for time. I do a couple of things. I go through my mind and I say, what inspires me? And honestly, Raktajino in a jar was a lot of fun. And I was like, Ferengi. Let's use Ferengi with KDF. That'll be fun. And
I'm gonna have to play yours though to see if you how you did the Ferengi legal system.
Oh, there's no legal
we'll be
system.
hearing from his lawyers.
Quite honestly,
because mine was all built around bribes and bribery.
This one was too. The Ferengi judge says, okay, we are ready to hear arguments from the Federation. Well, that is, unless the accused would like to bribe me now to get this over with. And the way the player ends up, actually winning the case is that because of the incident that took place, he has a contact that owes him a favor and gives him, inside information. And it's really short. It's really goofy, but man, it was fun to try to form a story and then say I have to be able to complete the number of maps I want to use and the dialogues within this time frame. So it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of challenge in it. And of course I pulled the mission. So, cause I was really happy with the way it turned out. So I wanted to pull it, go back and, edit some of the things and do, I mentioned before we started recording about how it's really heavy on the Klingon dialogue right now, because I have an intention of making, 2 dialogue chains, one for players who play a Klingon tune and one for any other member of the, the KDF faction.
How about one for Romulans allied with the KDF?
Oh, now you're asking so much of me.
We're just gonna fill up your slots with this mission.
However, one of the things that really inspired me about it was the fact that I now want to write a Federation version of it that's almost completely different in a sense, because I want to make the exact same thing happen where, a KDF ship shows up and destroys a Federation starship kind of thing. And I want to the reason is in the courtroom when Commander Hart tries to object to what's going on in my mission, I just have him mention that he's having a really bad day, and then in the green text I say, for more information on Commander Hart's bad day, play a Federation mission I'll write someday.
That's great.
Kind of deal. And the thing that I think mostly if we're talking about what I was doing that I learned about the Foundry was we've talked in the past on this show about time passing and how to make time pass in a mission. And in this one, I think I did it right, kind of. What I did was when you leave the system and the next map is going to be, a couple of days pass and you get a message coming to you from the High Council saying, hey, you've got to go to court. I wanted a couple of days to pass, and all I did is just have you appear in your ready room, and with the first dialogue in green, I was like, many days have passed since and just wrote it like a 3-sentence paragraph of many days have passed since the incident at the Alhena system. Boom, and then open up and you're on your map. There's a call incoming for you, and you open up and you take the call. And another place I have hours pass, and I do the same thing, just with the first dialogue on that map, I have it be a pop-up that just, as soon as they beam in, boom, or as soon as they appear in space, boom, the pop-up comes up, so that it kind of blocks their view, and the first thing they read is, highlighted green text that says, a few hours have passed, or something like that. And it worked, surprisingly. Baz actually mentioned that it worked. So I was like, okay.
I could see the Ferengi having like an expedited justice system. So you commit the crime and the roving Ferengi ship suddenly shows up with the courtroom on board.
Yeah. I had them rent a room at Drozana. They rented a private bar.
Seems to work. And I started with that because it seemed like a good segue into what we're working on. So that's what we're talking about now. Blue, have you been working in the Foundry lately?
I'm working on a mission based around the race that was introduced in the episode Darmok, the Temerians, which had proved to be really difficult because of the simple fact I've got to make the talking metaphors.
You probably got to make up a few of your own.
Yeah.
To fit the dialogue.
Well, I would imagine the biggest difficulty is we don't know their mythology, so you kind of have to make that up too.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see that as a huge difference because of the fact that they didn't go into much detail with that in the B show.
Right, but that just means that it's so open.
More for you to make up, actually.
More for you to make up, yeah. Just more work.
Also, though, if you look at it from the opposite point of view, it means you have complete freedom to make up whatever you want.
True.
Yeah, it's not.
Now,
it's not.
Can you make it Temerian in the character creator?
Oh, easily.
Yeah, it is pretty easy. It's just getting the little details right.
I'll send you a link after the show, or so that I don't have to try to do things with my Skype that breaks when I sneeze. But I can send you a link to really, really good designed Temerians.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you.
So what's your mission going to be about it exactly?
To be honest, at the moment I'm still writing out the main bulk of the mythology. The mission idea is basically that you've got this Temerian captain who's lost in a shuttle, and you've got to try and help him figure out and find out where his ship's got to, what happened to his ship, and then help him get revenge on the people who blew up his ship, basically.
I like
that
it.
Sounds
Is
cool.
Federation or Klingon?
Federation at the moment.
Great. All right. Mark, what have you been working on?
Well, I've been spending a lot of time on Tribble, looking at things that I would love to see added to the holodeck Foundry.
Well, I have the feeling we're going to be talking about that a lot later, so. All right, Greendragoon. Actually, based on feedback of our previous episode, I have come up with the secret Foundry handshake. Which is if you ever meet a Foundry author in real life, you walk up to them, shake their hand, and say, "Is part 2 done yet?"
Of course, the correct answer is no, not yet. It's coming soon.
Yes. Soon, TM. So, how goes part 2?
I have been feverishly working on it, in and amongst a sprinkling of new Romulan awesomeness. I have been working on what, from the outside, is known as Map 4, which has actually turned out to be a very huge map. And in fact, technically, I'm 2 days behind its deadline. So, if you couldn't tell from my intro, I've been spending every free moment trying to get this thing done.
Working a lot harder than I've been on mine, I can tell you that.
Well, it's kind of the linchpin of the first act. Basically, it's the turning point. Up until this point, everything has kind of been on a downhill slide, and this is the map where you finally start to recoup your losses. It also has a lot of characters. I have 7 new original characters. I have 2 characters that are returning, and I've got 2 cameos of characters that show up from elsewhere in Star Trek Online.
Nice. Ones that you had to recreate?
Yes. One of them is Ensign Helena, because it made really good sense for her to show up. And the other is actually the EMH from the tutorial.
Nice.
Ooh.
The
one played by Zachary Quinto.
There you go.
Yeah.
Blank on his name for a second.
I haven't played the tutorial in so long. I wonder, is that the same model that they use for the Photonic Bridge Officer? Photonic Science Bridge Officer?
Oh.
It's not.
No, I don't have the Photonic Bridge Officer. It's not the same
It
one.
does have certain similarities, though.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Man,
is it like a white-haired Vulcan?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
that
think.
could be the same one.
If you could, man, share that costume. I'd love to have that.
Obviously, I can't give him the kit that he had in the tutorial, and
Right.
Yeah.
Can't make him shimmer like give him a holographic shimmer. But
Well, I think you can't you reskin him onto something and make it shimmer?
Yeah, reskin him onto
The Cardassian hologram contact that we have.
Yeah.
Put the contact down and then change the skin.
does that work?
Yes.
I've seen it done, and I think it might have been unintentional, actually.
I
The
know.
holographic shimmer is part of an idle animation that the contact does that is in many ways similar to the way Davidians float in the air.
Yeah.
I gotta test this. I gotta test this.
We must test this.
I'm fairly certain that it will work, because when I was trying to reskin different things to be original series Klingons, Cardassians were one of the things I tried to use, and sometimes they would shimmer like holograms because I was using the wrong one or two of those Cardassian contacts and the enemy groups are hologram groups that will shimmer for you.
Well, I don't know about the one contact as a hologram. I gotta test this. This could be huge.
Well,
I've not been thinking about much else besides this Foundry
We
mission.
helped out your Foundry mission. It's going to be even more awesome now.
Awesome.
Oh, I will.
Well, I got a little work done in the Foundry this week because I discovered that a couple of a half-done 2-part mission that I've got would actually be pretty cool for the Romulan faction. So I've started adapting it to be on the Romulan side. I'm not worried about moving too fast with this because it's a Borg mission centered around the Borg, so it's going to be high level, and nobody's going to be high level Romulans for quite a while.
Yeah,
but Power Player is going to be in like a couple of days, as we saw in Tribble.
Well, yeah. How many days have we been able to test Legacy of Romulus on Tribble, and I'm already at level 25?
Yeah, about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think tomorrow it'll be 2 weeks.
And I honestly haven't been trying that hard.
No, me neither, and I'm level 25, so. I think it took me about 3 months to level up my first character ever, way back when. But this mission is going to involve you going alone on essentially a suicide mission into Borg space. I'm going to try and bring back that sense of the Borg as, the unstoppable juggernauts. Try and make them scary again. And it's going to be a tough needle to thread, but these missions were about half done, and I'd kind of just lost the will to work on them. They were going to be fed missions, but I decided this could actually work quite well for Romulans. So I'm adapting it. It's going to be a lot of placeholders for a while until we get any Romulan stuff, any updates, and who knows when that's going to happen. So these will be far in the future, but I did start. So, we will do our mission reviews now, and I think we have about 3 missions. So, Greendragoon, start us off.
Well, I played Relics by Kirkfat. Normally I try to avoid the spotlight missions just because they're not, I can provide feedback, but there's nothing the author can do about them. That said, this is one that has been sitting in my mission journal for a while, and I just hadn't gotten around to playing it. So I decided to start clearing out my mission journal of all these missions that had kind of accumulated. And so Relics was one of the first ones. I think I added it in back when, during like Copernicus's birthday when Kirkfat was promoting it as, oh, well, this has a connection to Copernicus. And it does. Although not a close one. Basically, the plot centers around you are sent to investigate this planet in the neutral zone and why the Klingon neutral zone and why the Klingons have decided to occupy this planet. You go in and you're during your first battle, your ship is damaged, so you're forced to retreat to a nearby nebula. In the nebula, you find this ship left by this alien race called the UGCians or UGCians. I'm thinking that was a bad pun.
Fine, yeah.
And on board you find a basically a guy in cryogenic freeze from like the Renaissance era. It was an interesting mission. It was definitely fairly well written. Unfortunately, the dialogue Kirkfat chose to write was like completely wrong for my captain, and there was a lot of assumptions he made about what the how the captain might react. He in fact went as far as to write some kind of a backstory, and I wasn't entirely sure whether this was just something he wrote and you were expected to play along, or if this was actually a reference to an earlier mission of his, and he just didn't give you a chance to opt out of it. But it was a lot of things that my captain would probably never do. A lot of things that my captain would never react that way to. In fact, he did a lot of emotional highs for my bridge officers, and especially my Vulcan science officer, who was both scared and angry and all these other things. That said, I mean, setting those aside, the mission was an incredible example of technical mastery. And this is something Kirkfat is incredibly good at. There's a ground portion that you start off on the alien ship, you beam to what he called the Auxiliary Medical Bay 4, or the Auxiliary Sick Bay 4, and you then take a turbolift to a holodeck, and this all occurs on one map. And it's all custom, and it's all these very impressive transitions as you jump between these different spots. So there's no loading. And he shows off some very impressive technical mastery. Like I said, all the sets were custom done. They were all done very well. A couple of the transitions he kind of had to add extra steps in order to accommodate certain limitations. But overall, I mean, it was definitely a lot of wow moments stacked together. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give away the ending, so I'm not specifically not talking about that. But he kind of wraps it up in a nice resolution. A lot of TOS touchstoning, and I had a distinct impression that there was a certain amount of influence from the original series in this one. Not specifically that it was...
Well, we definitely know Kirkfat's a TOS fan.
Yeah.
Big time.
We had a contest for it.
It's not to say that, I mean, this mission was like a TOS mission. I mean, it was definitely set in current time, followed the current timeline rules, but it definitely, certain flavors of it kind of harkened back to that TOS way of telling stories. Not just touchstoning, I mean, just some of the situations. I mean, for instance, I mentioned the backstory written for your captain and this situation involving a Andorian consular on your ship.
It was a shall we say, romantic.
Yes.
Backstory.
A forced romantic. I mean.
It was, yes.
Apparently, this romantic encounter occurred while your captain was under the influence of an alien entity, which both of those things are actually touchstones on TOS, because there was one episode with Kirk and I think there was another psychiatrist who he had a previous relationship with. Not to mention, I mean, think of a forced alien entity in the Kirk Uhura kiss scene comes to mind from Plato's Stepchildren. So a lot of touchscreen. There's also a big touchstone to the Guardian Forever towards the end.
That's right. And that was a really well done map, as I recall.
It was. I mean, all of the maps were good. I mean, none of them I thought, oh, this is just like a made. I mean, no. I mean, all of them were well done. They were well thought out. I mean, it's definitely, he did a lot of planning to set up how things would flow.
Excellent. Okay, I will go next. I played Crouching Tygokor Hidden Demon, which is also a Spotlight. but it's sort of a different Spotlight mission than a lot of them because it is one of the very first Spotlight missions. It was one of those, I think there were about 4 missions that Cryptic took off Tribble or made copies of off Tribble and put them on holodeck for people to play before the Foundry had actually launched on holodeck. So it's from the very, very early days of the Foundry, and it kind of shows. But it also goes to show that your mission doesn't necessarily have to be really complicated or really technically dazzling to be a great mission. Essentially it's a KDF mission. You go to Tygokor, which of course is their big fortress world, and you investigate some weird things going on there, some strange energy readings. You discover it's the Fakiri that are coming to attack you, and I won't give away the plot, but you discover there's more going on than just that. And I say it was simple without making that a criticism, you know. Because, I mean, you can say something simple and it's too simple. I think this was just simple enough.
Sometimes less is more.
Often, less is more.
But with this being so early in the life of the Foundry, I have to wonder, because this is Captain Revo, is a extremely prolific Foundry author, still making missions today, and I would love to know if he were able to go back and do this again, what would he do differently? What would he add? What would he subtract? I think probably the thing that impressed me most was one of the space maps, which had all kinds of details put into it that really made it different from almost every other space map I've seen. I just went into it going, oh, there's just all kinds of stuff happening on me. I don't really have too much more to say other than that. It's just, you know, it's definitely a worthwhile Spotlight mission to play. So, Blue, what did you play?
I played the latest Foundry Spotlight, the Rising Phoenix by H2O Rat, or however you pronounce it. It's a pretty good mission. It's advertised itself as inspired by Trek events that take the best to answer the call to save the day, it's basically you go to investigate a missing Federation ship and find yourself embroiled in a plot with the Romulans, the Ferengi, and the Borg. It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, which makes me wonder if there's a part 2 of it or not, which I'm going to be investigating later on tonight. But it does have a lot of old moments similar to Star Trek in. There's bits from the TNG episode with Scotty and stuff like that. Overall it's a very good mission. And does use quite a bit of Foundry assets, not assets of Foundry things which I would love to try and use in my match, but don't because of the fear screen it all up. And to be honest, that's pretty much all I've got to say on it.
We should mention, of course, that H2O Rat is the Cryptic dev who has been ill. I can't remember what it was that he's suffering from.
He has cancer. I think it's on the tongue. We can put the link up for the website to donate to him again.
We've linked it before. We will definitely link it again. But I thought it was real nice to spotlight his mission.
Yeah, I thought it was good spotlight.
The word complaints in the thread about it, I've just read them.
Oh, of course.
There's always complaints.
Oh, God, yeah.
So here's something that I'm hearing. It just occurred to me hearing you talk about, you know, the touchstones in this mission that is something that in general all of us seem to really like. And in reviews of things, probably because we're Star Trek fans, and in reviews of things that I see, people seem to like it a lot just in general. I think touchstonings are really good. A really, really good use of your time sometimes when you're writing.
And of course, I tend to touchstone things that are not Star Trek.
It's the thing that gets mentioned most in my mission reviews as well. How you touchstone on old episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like to throw in a line from one of the movies or, you know, one of the TV shows at some points, you know,
right.
Just random things they're like callbacks, and then people go, oh yeah, that's cool. I know what that's from. Like, I think in one of my missions I had, you know, at some point the villain shows up, and one of the dialogue options you can say is fire everything in all caps and lots of exclamation points.
That's good.
Yeah, I want to work in It's a Fake somewhere. only with a stow twist, referencing our great community manager. Instead, it's a flake. Well, let's segue into our discussion topics for tonight. And I should pause here to give a spoiler warning because our topic is the legacy of Romulus Beta.
I think that's going to take us the longest.
Yeah. Are we all in that?
Yep.
Yeah.
All five of us here?
Yeah. I got it.
So I'm going to start off with a question. This is something that I just noticed on the forums. Beards for Romulans. What do you guys think? Yes?
Nope.
Yes.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
We have never once seen them in canon. Not even
Although, I mean, if Romulans have the same descendants as Vulcans, we have seen Vulcans with beards.
Oh,
the only Vulcan with beard I can remember is the Mirror Spock.
Yeah. Mirror Spock and then Iris of all had one.
Yeah.
Damn it, you guys.
So they're capable of growing them.
Yes, Romulans can have beards. You and your stupid
Can Romulans
biology and genetics.
I forgot to check.
You're right. If they are genetically descended,
genetically similar, they ought to be
similar. They should be able to have them.
But I suppose the main point from the beta is, my God, there are some beautiful maps.
Oh, yeah.
Just utterly beautiful. I mean, Romulan ship interiors. There's what am I thinking of? The Suliban Helix.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yes.
Especially the animations on it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about this, and something that's occurred to me is, there are so many amazing assets in the beta, things that I would love to play with, working in Foundry maps. What we know is that we're not getting any of this when it launches.
They just don't have the.
They don't have time.
Yeah.
That
would be my guess. I mean,
they
we
don't
haven't
have
heard
time.
one way or the other, but that's my guess.
Well, I think we have heard we're not getting anything at launch for the Foundry. I think, in all the interviews, they've been pretty plain about that.
Well, I can't say.
But because we're not getting any of it at launch, that gives the community of authors a chance. Kirkfat put up recently a video of these are the assets on Earth's space dock that just are great that we want. Look at this carpet. I want this carpet. If authors that are in the beta, that are in the Romulan beta, wander through and say, okay, and make a list, this map, take pictures of the specific assets that would be really great to have. And if an author community list, and someone who visits the forums, someone who visits the forums more than me probably already has something going. Yeah,
I've been thinking about doing this.
I'm thinking the next time that I run through it, because I'm trapped. You guys know I'm trapped at level 10. I can't get past that mission because it's bugged. The next time I run through up to that point to have someone choose the Federation ally, I think I'm gonna stop and take pictures of assets and be like, I want this kind of thing. I'll
be happy if we just get the Romulan ship maps. Romulan ship interiors.
Those will be nice.
I think would probably be biggest on my list because they're just so incredible.
Yeah. They're really nice.
And different as well from the Romulan assets that we do have. Because I mean, we have walls, we have some Romulan interior maps, and we have walls, we have generators, that sort of thing. I mean, we have everything we need to build on our own. But these are better textures, more interesting looking, and of course different from the things that we've had for 3 years.
So of course, it'd be wonderful to have this hooked up to an interior editor.
Another thing that I think that we should be hoping for is the new social map, the flotilla. We should hope, I think, for there to be contacts on the flotilla for us to use, and doors to enter for us to use to enter into our own missions, and also throughout the Tygokor block doors.
Because of course,
there's a lot of those red locked doors inside the flotilla. Those would make awesome entry points.
Oh, yeah.
Because, of course, the only thing in Tygokor that we have for the Foundry is contacts and things and interacts on New Romulus, but it's the New Romulus map that you can't get to unless you're level 50.
Yeah. So here is, and that just formed an interesting segue in my mind. The other thing that I've been doing with the Tribble beta, now that I've been convinced by, of course, being able to play the Romulan part of it to go on there and play, is I spent some time playing through the new KDF tutorial. You don't have the opportunity to play, this is what happens when you first materialize your character. You don't have when you, very first mission, the thing that puts you in command of your new ship, you don't have that. You can't do that one yet, because the first mission you can grab. Yeah, because you have to bring a character that already exists onto Tribble in order to play it. You can't create a new Klingon to play through that. The new tutorial is like 5 or 6 missions long, however, and you can play all of the missions that come after you've gained command of your ship. And what it does is it takes a lot of the old tutorial and turns it into a really interesting story that's taking place in the first city, to the point where you have to go to the first city prison complex. And what they've done is taken some of those other doors that exist on the map that, normally just lead to nothing when you wander around the first city. Here's a door. It doesn't lead to anything. Now it might lead to the new first city prison or an apartment complex. At one point you go into an apartment complex on the first city, and there are a lot of doors out there that don't have other uses, that they could start hooking up in all kinds of places that would be great. And maybe that's why they saved them. That's why they don't give them to us as doors, so that when they do decide to update their content and upgrade their content, they have them.
Well, and of course, at the moment what we can do, because you can't play Foundry missions as a Romulan until you pick the side. Once you've picked the side, you can go to their worlds. I know this because I've taken my Romulan to the first city. So of course we have all those doors, but I really think we do need doors in the Tau Dewa sector block.
There's no excuse not to, really.
Absolutely vital. And of course, Hippie, you probably have not seen the social zone that is on the surface of New Romulus that you can get to.
No, not yet.
Which is also pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I am trapped at the mission neutral no more. That's where I'm at. Until the bug that makes that first supposed enemy contact friendly to you, I can't move on until that's fixed.
Well, I think as you guys alluded to, we probably won't get these things at launch. I think they didn't really consider the Foundry in this update, and maybe they didn't have the resources to, or maybe it just sort of slipped through the cracks. But I think we are going to get some attention after Romulus launches. I don't know if it'll happen very quickly, but and I really hope they take the time and do it right and put in these maps that is some of their absolute best work.
Oh yeah.
That without doubt.
And I think probably a lot of it due to a lot of their influx of new people. They've really hired some talented artists.
They really have.
Somebody was congratulating Tumor Boy, and he said, it wasn't just me, it was a whole team of guys.
Yeah, I was about to say that first day that they had it open on the Tribble test server chat, people were in there, oh, Tumor Boy, this looks great, this is so beautiful, and he was like, you guys should thank, I think it was Lieutenant Commander Miller, because this whole town, that's him, not me. kind of thing.
That first town farming community, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, awesome. This was within the first couple hours. A lot of the devs were on, just listening.
We even had Down for it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he was there, and Tumor Boy was there. I can't remember if Bran Flakes was there or not, but
Bran Flakes was everywhere.
Yes, Bran Flakes is.
I think Bran Flakes has clones. I really do. I think he has clones because he is everywhere.
Must do.
Donut and I was playing on the idea that he's actually a Borg.
Well, and of course, the other big issue this week, it actually been for a couple of weeks.
Let's not move on away from the beta yet, because all we talked about is, hey, the maps are really pretty, we want them. Not only is this some of the best looking work that they've ever done,
best written as well, yeah.
It is from a design perspective and from a storytelling perspective, some of the most compelling and best work that they've ever done.
Oh yeah.
Now this is interesting because, of course, you were telling us before the beta launched and for, a few weeks
I'm
before.
a convert. I'm a believer.
Yeah, that you were not excited all about the direction they were going.
So the first thing that changed for me around that was hearing Dan in an interview say that the intention was that players were not going to be playing the bad guys, that just wasn't the game they wanted to tell. Okay, that changes my approach to looking at what they do, and I have to say, are they telling the best story that they can, choosing that this is the approach that they're taking? That this is the story they're choosing to tell, and wow, did they hit it out of the park.
It definitely brings a unique perspective that is nowhere else in Stowe.
It's nowhere else in Stowe, and they made it personal. They made me care.
It's some of the best writing I've seen in MMOs.
That was fun.
And what was that, Mark?
I said infiltrating the Tal Shiar. That was fun.
We're not that far yet.
Oh no! I knew that was coming. I mean, I knew that had to be coming somewhere.
I did forget to do the spoiler alert. Maybe I'll edit that in.
Edit in a spoiler alert later. Here's another thing.
You say that, but it won't actually happen.
I mentioned that I've been playing the Klingon tutorial missions. They're moving that idea of story-based bridge officers apparently into the other factions a little bit as well, because like I said, you don't get to play the very first thing that puts you in command of your ship. So I assume that you might gain a bridge officer through that story somewhere. And as you go through the next parts of the mission, you've brought a prisoner back to Kronos who breaks out, and you have to hunt around for him. So it does a lot of the same, like sending you from place to place, but while you're going to those places, you're performing an investigation. And there are other doors along the way that you go through to introduce brand new areas like a warehouse and a prison and an apartment complex, like I said. And while you do these missions that are associated with it, like when you go to the warehouse, you meet an engineer who's like, you know what, my life sucks. I work in a warehouse. I think I'd rather come with you. And he becomes a bridge officer. Now, you can rename him. Now you can rename him, you can recostume him. I mean, it's more than that. I mean, there was more that's, I don't remember the exact dialogue. I didn't write it down, but that was the gist of it was, I think I could help you and you need an engineer. It really, now the Boff is different. You can discharge him, you can rename him, you can recostume him. He doesn't have very much personality, but it's the idea that you gained him as part of a story rather than just this random, hey, I made a level, so I got a Boff.
Well,
it made him cooler. It made that guy that I picked up there cooler, is all I can say.
When my character did the actual first mission for the KDF tutorial, the end of the mission, or somewhere in the mission, I did get a bridge officer that was a tactical bridge officer that, it was...
That makes total sense now. Because you got to play the part that we can't see now, right? And in that you got attacked. Like the 5 or 4 or 5 tutorial missions that I played, you pick up an engineer and a science officer.
Yeah. I got a Gorn tactical officer who was identical to the one that I got when my KDF character on the live server got his initial bridge officer.
Yeah. I mean, I can see them repackaging the officers that they already have existing and just, I mean, it really is the simplest amount of story, but it made them cooler. It made them feel like it made that idea of that guy becoming my engineer because he helps you in the fight too. Like you save his life and he helps you out, and that makes him cooler than just a guy that I get because I leveled. And the Romulan
one is where they really
takes it 20 steps.
Of course, they're sort of retconning that into the KDF tutorial. They're really doing it in the Romulan one.
They're going from ground up.
Because he has a full personality backstory, and his motivations interweave throughout the plot.
Cannot change his costume. That's my one objection, though.
Your first
I don't know.
officer that you get in the Romulan stuff is really more like an NPC that follows you around literally for the entire game. That's basically what he is.
Who, of course, has bridge officer powers and ground powers.
I
all
also
that
found it amusing that he's a purple quality bridge officer who starts with Torpedo Spread 3 as something that he just comes with. I like that.
Oh,
that
he's a
awesome.
great bridge officer.
He's an awesome bridge officer.
But my only objection to this approach is that I would still like to be able to have some customization here.
Yeah,
because that's one of the fun parts of the game to me. And he can keep his name, he can keep his personality. I don't mind that. I like that. But I'd like to be able to change his look.
Yeah, like I said,
so that he's not identical every time I run through the thing.
So here's the thing that hits me about it is that initial complement of bridge officers that you get, they are not part of Datan's forces. The first guy is, your old friend from your hometown. The woman that you pick up from the Helix is not one of Datan's people. The
Riemann chick.
The Riemann is not one of, none of them that you pick up are Datan's people. Yes. You, in terms of the story, you are the only one that is accepting commission, as far as you know. And these other people are still civilians that choose to work with you. Yeah. They're following you. So they don't have to wear that military uniform. They can continue to have to. They are.
But I would like them to, on my characters. And
I
would just like to have the option.
I understand, yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, and really, I'm just trying to make myself like it more.
So I have the sneaking suspicion that we are actually not going to keep those starting officers by the end. I suspect that at some reason or other they will leave us.
So
I don't think so.
No, I do. I agree with Aaron here. I agree with
hard to say.
Because here's what they've said. They've said that characters will have that what they're aiming for is eventually all factions having a unique story that leads them up to like level 40 and starts them on the featured episode arcs, right?
Yeah, I think that's by that point.
I think that story is within that story will contain the full arcs for those companion characters that you pick up.
Oh no, and discharge it's only two of them that you're stuck with. You can discharge the other three at any time.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
If anything story-wise is going to happen, it's going to happen to that very first one you can't dismiss.
Yeah.
Unless they change it so you can't dismiss the other ones. These are all work in progress, of course.
Yeah.
And I've heard somebody say they were working on this, so I can't get that they actually are. That they may allow us to at least customize the clothing.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
I think
so I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but.
What really hits me about the beta though is even with the fact that we're getting bots that have, unique clothing that comes with them, I feel playing through the Romulan portion of the beta, at least for me, I get the feeling that it really, that first part of the tutorial really feels like you're home. It really feels, and I don't know what does it. I don't know whether it's little details on the map or the fact that you can just, because I see it in other social zones, NPCs standing around talking to each other, and maybe it's that opening, that all right now, that eventually will be a voiceover that we're just seeing scroll by now about what happened. You've been here for 22 years. They really set the tone.
Oh, the colony has been there. You have not.
Yeah, but they really set the tone of that feeling like home. They just make it.
I think it's the little things.
Yeah, it is the little. I think that's really what it is. It's the little things that place just feels so alive and so. It hurt.
You're integrated into it.
Yeah, it hurt when that colony broke.
Oh yeah.
Did you talk to the woman who?
Oh yeah, I read.
Was going on about the history.
Absolutely.
Oh,
when I saw an interactable NPC called the lore master or lore whatever, I walked over and I was like, I'm going to be here for, the next 45 minutes. And I sat there and read it all and just went, ah.
Did you get to the part where she asked you about how you got to the colony?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You basically get to tell her, like, oh, well, I've been here the whole time, or, oh, I only been here a year.
Yeah, it's this whole, they really invest you in your character and in in the NPCs and companions that you're going to bring along with you. And because they did that, the game feels not only have they changed the appearance of the game. I mean, things look really good, better than they ever have. And not only does the game look brand new, it feels brand new. The way they're telling the story just feels brand spanking new.
I mean, it's a brilliant story. There's a mission later on where you have to go and try to save some people, but something goes wrong. And it's a short
That's
mission.
all the missions, right?
No. Yeah, but this is...
It's a recurring theme.
Yeah. It goes wrong right at the end and you lose them all. And it's a short mission, but you really felt bad about what happened to them.
I did. I thought it was interesting. It was sort of the first mission I'd come across where you were supposed to fail.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
That's kind of cool too. I can't wait to get there.
Because that's the thing about MMOs is like you always succeed in the quest.
Mm-hmm.
And very few break that convention.
There's another mission in there that has a really, really interesting plot twist at the end of it that is, let's just say that it's something I haven't seen in Star Trek Online before, and it was awesome.
There's a lot of things they don't do.
I just realized what I like the most. I just realized the tiny thing that I love the most. IRW is available. You don't have to be an RRW. You can be an IRW something on your ship.
There's another option too. What was it?
I don't remember the other option, but for role-playing purposes, you can be the IRW something, which is awesome.
As a Fed-aligned Romulan, you can use the USS prefix.
Yeah, I think the KDF can use the
KDF
prefix too. Yeah, I think the KDF prefix too. But yeah, that's for that. I'm so happy that little tiny thing is there. They're going to let people be the IRW something. I'm guaranteeing you once I get on holodeck, that's what I'll be doing.
It sort of goes back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago when I brought up the topic is, how do you write for Romulans? And I think Cryptic has done a really courageous thing is that they have not written the player characters as the Romulans from the shows. I think that would have been the easy way out. I think they have been kind of courageous in making these Romulans as incredibly different as the Romulans you had never met on the shows. And I think that's great.
Well, it gives them so much more depth.
I'm a convert. I'm a total convert.
Exactly.
I cannot wait to play this faction.
So, but of course, there's a lot of people who want to be Romulans from the shows, and I admit that would be really fun. So, the Foundry. Make that storyline.
That's what it's there for.
That's what it's there for. Part of what it's there for. Alternate storylines.
Precisely.
If you want to be one of those Tal Shiar guys, make that Foundry mission. I'll play it.
Yeah, I'll play it too.
Yeah. I have no problem with suspension of disbelief. If you want me to believe that I am, a full-on Romulan Empire officer for however long you've asked for my attention in your mission, I'll go for it.
Yep. I guess really what it comes down to, I'm a convert. I was very, very skeptical, and I guess, my answer to Bran Flake's tweet of, do you all believe me now, or whatever,
because he's been saying for months, it's like,
he's been saying for months, it's the best stuff ever, and recently he tweeted something to the effect of, do you guys believe me now? And yes, I do. I believe you. This stuff is amazing.
So,
I can't wait to
tell
play
the rest of Cryptic all of this, but I think this Romulan new content, story-wise, blows out of the water anything they're developing in Neverwinter.
Yeah.
It blows it out of the water of any MMO I've ever played. I'm going to be honest.
The story here is amazing. It's great. It's great. If I wore hats more often, well, actually, summer's here. I'm going to wear hats all the time. Hats off to Kestrel. Because, a lot of this, the story, we're sitting here praising the story and the maps, and, we can praise the art team, but the story, I'm sure that they sit down and have really wonderful creative, jam sessions on story, but I'm gonna just, my hat's off to Kestrel. The story and the Romulan expansion is outstanding.
I feel kind of bad for them because they have set the bar so high. But then again, the bar gets higher with every featured episode series, they have progressively gotten better.
I don't feel like they set the bar super high. I think they set the bar for extreme expansion, like we're making this incredibly big thing. They set that bar really high. But I don't think they set the overall bar really high.
So you don't think they'll have any trouble maintaining this quality of storytelling?
Quality of storytelling with the amount of people they have working for them now that we know can obviously make really nice stuff. We're not going to be able to expect them to work as hard as they have been on Legacy of Romulus, because everything that they've talked about, they've been in there.
Yes, we don't want to burn out the Dwellers now that we've gotten them broken in.
Right. So they're
going to have to keep up the pace somewhat.
I mean, we're probably going to see less in the amount of content that we get, but we're probably going to see a lot of the same quality.
Yeah, this is obviously the big chunk, and then we're going to see some smaller chunks as we go.
Yeah, we're going to see smaller
probably
chunks.
Leading up to another big chunk, maybe, I don't know, like a year from now or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it took a long, long time to build up all this content.
It had to.
Yeah.
You got a long development cycle.
Hopefully the one thing we'll see from this increased team is more featured episode series as well, though.
I think they have talked about the sort of return of that.
I hope so.
It'd be nice.
Something else I wanted to bring out of the new beta is, what do you guys think of the new contact screen and how it's used in the Romulan missions?
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I love
it's okay.
I like it.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But what it means for us, I think, as Foundry authors, is that we're gonna, because we do get some of the updated look of it. I mean, we can't choose who goes on a view screen, who doesn't within that dialogue with. But it is going to mean that we're probably going to have to spend more time making our NPC faces look interesting. At least I'm going to do that, because it's a big close-up.
That's what I like about it. It forces me to think more in terms of my NPCs have to look different from each other.
Yeah.
The ones that they're going to talk to anyway. I frankly don't care how the tech falls on us, whether they're always coming at us through a bridge view screen or if they have some generic round view screen. Like if they just attached a generic, we have how many generic maps, hills, Arctic, things like that. If they just put like a generic Arctic background for if the contact is talking to you on a map or something, I don't know how they could accomplish it. And I'm just glad to get those close-ups on faces, actually.
I think we essentially get no background, except when you're in space, all the contacts get the view screen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I've noticed is that when I'm playing through the Romulan Republic mission, more often than not, it will give you some sort of background in the contact window. However, that background is usually just a shot of your bridge. Then again, there are in some occasions where you'll see something else.
You get that guy who's like sitting down at a station on bridge too.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Well, one thing I noticed when you're talking to Talmera, though, is that in Talmera's case, you see the booth that she's sitting in at Drozana, which is interesting.
Now, I mean, I'd love to have the tech to kind of choose the background. But I'm sure we won't get that.
I think that we can't get that tech, actually. I don't think I think that's tied to story.
We
don't have that
something that they have to build in every time.
Yeah, because they know the first time you talk to the leader of the Romulan colony, and he's standing up on that platform, and behind him are the tarps and the posts and all the pieces of the celebration back there. They know that you're going to be talking to him at that spot, so they can design the background to look like that spot. Yeah. I don't think that if he were I think if you managed to talk to him somewhere else, I'm not certain, but I think the background on that would be still the thing that it is now. Because I've noticed that when I talk to him from a different direction, it's still the same background at least. But it's always in the same spot, so
I could see some tech where we get to choose from a number of presets.
That's what I'm thinking, a number of generic presets.
Yeah, some generic presets.
There's some generic, like, ship interior, Federation ship interior, Klingon ship interior, things like that.
Now I would actually hope that it defaults to the blank rather than to something tied to the map.
I hope that blank becomes more like black or gray, though, because right now it's bright white and it's horrible.
Really?
At least on the, well, I'm going by the fact that I know that the Klingon tutorial missions are not finished. And so every contact that you talk to...
I have played, since they put the new interface on there, I've played a Foundry mission, and it defaults to a sort of black background.
That I'd be fine with that.
But I was saying because I don't want it, those of us who build sky castles, you want it, if it was going to default to something, you'd rather have the wall behind them rather than the, expanse of meadow clearing 01, which the player would not see unless they were on the ground.
That's true.
It'd be kind of weird. It's like, I'm talking to this guy on my ship that somebody built for me. Why is he in a meadow behind him? So, I'd love to have the choice of what to put behind him, but we had better default to the blank.
I think that's a good idea.
And I think that's what it does in the current, like, the older missions.
As far as I know, it does. It's just blank. But I think you get the little view screen border with blank behind it, in space.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool, which makes it even better. So, the other thing, of course, with the beta, in regards to the Foundry, is Romulan character creation. And I really hope that's something we get.
Yeah.
I expect not to have it right away, but, because, if we're making missions for Romulans, we gotta be able to create some Romulans.
Mm-hmm.
And custom.
I would almost expect something like that when, at the same time, they start flagging. Or
being able to make Romulan exclusive missions. I hope they do that.
We may have to play with the alien creator. You can make fairly convincing Romulans.
Yeah, and we have been for a time, so.
Yeah, for a while more.
What is it that I use? It's the Xindi one, and I take down the slider a bit so that the things on the cheeks disappear, but it still leaves some ridges.
For the head ridges, I always think it's like Klingon head ridges 4 or 5, and really bring the slider way down.
And make sure there's some hair.
Yeah, and then
there's a couple of hair pieces that look pretty Romulan.
Yep, there are.
Pretty much most Vulcan pieces do.
Well, did you guys look at my form avatar?
Yeah, the one that, yeah. What did you use for the, you use for the ridges on that?
Looks Klingon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys look at my form avatar? That's something that I made in the Foundry.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
We were wondering, because we can see it right now on your Skype icon.
Oh.
On your Skype. What did you use for the ridges on that? Is the question.
It actually is one of the Klingon ridge things. It's just that the hair covers everything except for the bottom wrinkle in the ridge.
Yeah, which as long as you're using hair, you can fake a Romulan.
Mm.
Now you can also use Vulcans because, as I find out in the character creator, you can make Romulans without the ridges. Sort of the original series style Romulans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what we can do now, we can also use Vulcans to be Romulan. We just gotta make sure they're not in Starfleet Forms, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about from the beta, at least so far?
Oh.
Imagine we'll probably
thumbs up.
Thumbs up. There are so many mission maps that I would love to play with in the Found. Man.
And there's overall some non-Romulan stuff that's new. There's a Borg interior I really like.
Oh.
Well, there's actually more than one Borg interior map, and I would like to play with all of them, but one of them in particular is just awe-inspiring to look at.
Some of those new KDF maps are kind of nice too.
I'm gonna have to go take a look at those because
the thing to do is
just KDF stuff.
The thing to do is just copy whatever KDF. I did it with my level 50. Just copy whatever KDF you have over, and you can start it. You learn about what happened in the mission that Mark got to play throughout the dialogue, but just the first story arc comes before what used to be bringing down the house and all the first KDF missions, and you're able to pick them up and kind of do this new tutorial running around the first city.
Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe what I'll do tonight is I'll go do that, and take pictures of stuff that we ought to have in the Foundry and make a thread. and I'll start a thread, and you guys, you go through the Romulan stuff and start adding stuff. Take pictures, link to because I think we can't post images in the Tribble forum. And I think we should post this in the Tribble forum because that's where it's most likely to be seen.
Right.
For one thing.
Well, we might want to post it in the Foundry discussion.
Well, it's like that or the art forum.
Yeah, one or the other could work.
Or all three, I don't know. But I'll make a thread and you guys start posting in it. And
well, as I said, I already
take videos
started a thread.
Did you?
Basically asked people to post screenshots of what they wanted.
Because I thought they were awesome.
See, I stay away from the forums so much unless somebody tells me to go look at something or I find something there interesting. Or something there potentially might be interesting and people tell me, go look at this, and then I find myself reading something for a while, but
you're probably better off. It kind of saps your appreciation of humanity some days.
I don't wander around looking for things myself. If I read something somewhere else or one of my friends says, hey, there's this cool thing you should go read, I'll go read it. And I look at the Foundry stuff.
Greendragoon was probably seeing this morning. I was having sort of a, why the hell are all you people on the internet so hateful all the time moments?
Actually, I make it a strong point not to be.
Yeah. Part of it was due to, because saying mostly that, if I'm a fan of something, I'm looking for things to like. And it seems like so many other fans are looking for things to dislike, going out of their way to look for things to dislike. And it's like, I'm sitting here and I was like, how are you people fans even?
Yeah, how are you a fan if all you want to do is...
But I guess, people have different definitions of fan, so.
Fan, yeah.
I mean, but you're talking to a guy who finds things, redeeming factors in Star Trek V.
Bloody hell.
Oh.
I am that forgiving.
Which movie was that again?
The one
that Hippiejohn refuses to acknowledge.
You guys are talking about something, and I just can't tell what.
He physically blanks it out. It's interesting to watch.
What was the subtitle on that movie? I don't remember its name.
Final Frontier.
Final Frontier.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I didn't like that one.
Yeah, the one.
I didn't say I liked it. I said there are a couple of redeeming factors. One is the
True.
music. The music's pretty good. The other is
rehashed.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, I don't think they came with anything original.
There's a new theme in it, and yes, it has the rehashed Klingon theme really fast. The other thing is it has some great Kirk, Spock, McCoy banter. Yeah,
I might give you that if
you give me that one.
I'll give you that one.
Give me my action design.
Be generous. Come on.
Okay, what I'll give you is that an entire movie worth of music might have one new theme in it, maybe two.
Yeah.
And those new themes might have been cool.
Now the special effects are terrible.
The Kirk, all right, the Kirk, Spock, McCoy banter, I can't give you.
Now some of it's really over the top, for sure.
I can't give it to you because so? Kirk, Spock, no, I can't. Row your boat.
Well, that's pretty terrible.
That
I think some of the stuff when he's climbing up the mountain is hilarious.
I think it's a waste of film.
Well, I mean, for sure it doesn't add up to a great film. In fact, it adds up to a pretty terrible film.
I own it for the sake of
I don't know what the hell Shatner was thinking, but
well, he wanted to direct a film.
I guess. I think as the story goes, depending on whose biography you read, I think he was essentially jealous of Nimoy that he got to direct 2 films.
Because he did a good job.
Because Nimoy's a good director. And really should direct more things. I mean,
yeah.
It's a couple of
he's very skilled and he can do a lot of different kinds of, but I mean, he's probably, he's retired.
There's some great actor-directors out there and a lot of them in Star Trek. A lot of
another thing I've seen Nimoy do and do a very good job at is documentary. I remember seeing some, I think it was on History Channel, where he did some documentaries about something or other. That was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think we had one more thing that I know at least Dragoon and I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I'm going to take a step back because I don't really have a dog in this fight, so.
You really don't have an opinion.
Not that much, other than.
I wouldn't say I have a dog in the fight.
I wouldn't say I have a dog in this fight either. I'm really happy with Cryptic right now. I I did not expect that I could possibly be this happy with them.
Well, can I tell him that you can deliver the emotional response?
It's all Captain Gecko's fault. I'm super happy with them. To hear him say that this latest Foundry exploit was indeed really, really bad. As bad as I thought it was, and as bad as I was in the chat room saying to people, Kirkfat and I were like, no, really, you guys, look at how bad this is, again and again. And I mean, poor Cerberus Films just had to keep telling me to calm the hell down.
I kept telling you to calm down.
You did whenever you were there, yeah.
It was kind of funny to watch, actually, because you would get all ragey for a minute, then you would go, like, have some tea and pet your cat and come back, and you'd be all great, and you'd be like hunky-dory, you're like, I love you guys. And then you get all ragey again. It's like a cycle
yeah,
of...
but like, just to hear them confirm that, yeah, this was really bad, and that, this was on Podcast UGC. They interviewed Captain Gecko, and 4-hour interview, but somewhere about 3 hours in, they say, what about this? And he says, we realize how bad it is, essentially, and the words, we will ban your ass, came out. And I was, and I realized he actually said, I think Hav was the first one to actually say ban your ass, but Al said it too.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay,
that's what's called
before we go too far, just
yeah.
because not everyone may know what we're talking about. For a little while now, there has been an exploit in the Foundry that
I'm not going to talk about how to do it.
I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but needless to say, it resulted in a few people gaining a lot. I mean a lot of ill-gotten dilithium.
More than a few
10 million in a few minutes. About 10 million in a few minutes. I think we worked out.
Not just a few minutes. You could. I mean, it's a lot. When I heard Havrahab bring it up on Podcast BC, he said it's like 40,000 in a couple of clicks, and I don't think that it was referenced exactly like how. It's more than just 40,000 in a couple of clicks, and it's repeatable. And there were fleets and individuals out there paying for their star bases by just clicking on two things and getting, 70, 80,000 dilithium at a pop, and standing there and doing it and making millions.
So,
and I'm sure they'll argue the point, but I'm sorry, that is an exploit.
Yeah.
And I do feel I should issue a warning here. But Cryptic has basically said, or I should say Captain Gecko has said, that Cryptic's policy currently is you will get one warning.
Mm-hmm.
Any ill-gotten dilithium is being pulled from affected accounts or from people who have exploited it. And one warning after that, your account will be banned.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He also did say that, confirm that there is a fix in the pipeline.
Yeah, and not only that, the missions are being pulled from the available missions, and if you had them sitting in your journal, they're being pulled out of your journal, and he was really clear about how easy it is for them to get the metrics on what's going on. And
if you looked at the hot list, certain exploit missions would just rise straight up, and you could tell them immediately.
Well, it's not even what we can see. I mean, they can see if a player went in and, if a player went in and played this exact same mission 50 times to make, millions of dilithium, they know. They saw it.
These kinds of exploits are not hidden. Cryptic can see it.
Yeah, and it amazes me that people continue to do it. That's like, what upset me and made me so angry about this one was that I think anyone who's a paying customer, has a right to be angry about this one and had a right to complain and, and send messages and make reports and whatever, because dilithium is tied to real world money. People have dropped thousands of dollars into their star bases just to buy, buying Zen, selling it for dilithium just so they could feed their star bases, and stealing dilithium like what's been going on is, it was because I give Cryptic some of my money every month. That means part of my money, even if it's only $15 or whatever in a month, that's part of Cryptic's coffers now. That's part of, it may be the tiniest part, but it's still part of it.
Yeah. Gecko did actually say that this was that they were viewing this as tantamount to theft from Cryptic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which it comes down to what he said was I think the perfect response from the company, and I didn't expect it. I didn't think they were the kind of company that's willing to ban people.
And I think that is why it was such a good thing that Gecko did come on and say this, because I mean, exploiters, you now have a warning.
Yeah, and it's kind of more response that we ever had from them on Into the Past Foundry.
Well, I mean, yeah, generally their policy is to not discuss exploit and not to discuss infractions because of exploit or infractions in general. So
yeah, they don't discuss what's being done or, you know.
And it should probably say at this point that, you know, I kind of feel like it is sort of the part of the job of being a responsible player in an MMO is to, when you see these things going on, report them.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to report things they see as exploits. Obviously, I think it's Cryptic's job from that point to do something or not do something. That is entirely up to them. But I mean, if you see something you think is wrong going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there is a report button in the same place that you place Foundry reviews.
Absolutely.
And Cryptic will look at those reports.
And in the last week, I watched exploits by the dozen get pulled down. Things were just disappearing from the mission list, and I was very happy every time I saw that happen.
Yeah, I'm glad they're taking action.
Oh yeah.
They had to. I'm not kidding when I say, you know, people were able to make they were able to make their dilithium cap with this exploit. It was completely robbing the company.
Yeah, their dilithium cap for the next month.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. And really, like, there are a lot of people that are already whining about this on the forums. This was, you know, if Cryptic made this possible, then, because, you know, like I said, I go to the forums when something interests me, and them dealing with this exploit interests me. There are people that are already like, well, if they let it happen, they brought this on themselves, it's their fault, and blah, blah, blah. You know what? If you walk into a store and you rob that store and take and take their money and walk out because there was no one behind the counter, they have a video camera, just like Cryptic has metrics to watch you. And just because there was no one there to watch you and they let it happen doesn't make what you've just done right. And you know what you've done is wrong. And if you go back and you keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and know that you're stealing, you know what? You're not a human being that I want anything to do with, because you know what you were doing was wrong, and you really just need to stop trying to defend that and stop trying to say, no, what I was doing was wrong, was really okay because no one stopped me from doing it. That's the most ridiculous defense that I've ever heard, and I am glad that I heard the word ban come from the company.
By the same logic, is Cryptic with not wrong for banning them? Because they can?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know.
Well, you know, it says, I think, in the EULA that they can. For sure.
They can do anything they want. That's the best part.
At any time.
It's an incredibly...
And it is fair of them to offer a warning. That's fine.
And they seem to be. They seem to be offering people a warning and saying, do it again and we'll ban you. That's what seems to be coming out of it. So I'm happy enough with that.
Yeah. That seems fair to me.
It seems totally fair. Because if you keep doing it and you get banned after you were told,
then
if you do it, I'll ban you. Yeah, I'm not gonna feel sorry for someone who gets banned after they got warned. So
no, I've got no sympathy.
Not a bit. But
it certainly is interesting how people go out of their way to, every time we get a Foundry update, to figure out some exploit.
Yeah.
When you could just make it just as easily by doing stuff.
What kills me right now is that really, do people not realize how easy dilithium is to come by in the game and how generous Cryptic is being with it in general? They're like, you know what? People need fleet marks in dilithium. It's the thing we hear, you know, a big complaint about. They need to help get these Starbase projects going. So, I do.
They always use the word need. I must have this. I need this.
Just because, we're not grinders. There are people who feel like they have to have the newest shiny right now. But just because I don't like the Crystalline Entity, event doesn't mean that they're not being really generous with that. The final reward for finishing that out is 50,000 dilithium and 1,000 fleet marks, and and it's so easy to get dilithium.
I got involved in that too late to get it, but that's how it goes. I didn't do the thing, so I don't get the reward.
I don't understand the need to exploit the Foundry to get your dilithium when literally in the game dilithium is so easy to come by.
Like, just play,
Yeah.
Just play the game. Don't exploit the game. I make all my dilithium very quickly and then have time to just play and do other things. So.
Yep.
I don't even do that, and then I have lots more time to play things. I mean,
even outside of Crystalline Entity, I just do STFs, and you can rake in tons of dilithium from that.
And
I've been doing the Romulan grind, and it has not honestly felt like a grind to me.
No, especially leveling, it's designed to do a little bit, keep your projects going. It's not meant to be totally hard.
Yeah, I've just been playing some on the weekends, a little bit in the evenings here and there, doing the E-pose, and I have never once had a point where I was paused in my projects.
So it gets expensive.
Every morning I just, turn the thing over. I've always been able to build up enough marks where I've been able to every week just keep it going. And I'll hit tier 5, should be early next week.
So where it gets expensive, Drogon, is once you hit tier 5 and you want to buy the torpedo and the beams and the other, and just that's.
And I've been able to build up enough stuff to do that.
Awesome. That's very cool.
Because I decided early on what exactly I wanted out of it. I decided I was going to get to tier 5 because at the time, this was before they announced the legacy packs. At the time I was like, okay, I want to get to tier 5 because I want to play a Riemann. They said, you'll be able to play a Riemann if you unlock tier 5 Romulan rep on any character of any faction.
Yeah.
So I was going to do that, and so I thought, okay, you know what? I won't pause the rewards. So that's, I calculated out. I used my little calculator to figure out how many I needed and how much of whatever I needed to play each week to get to where I wanted, and I built in the 1,500 extra marks for those 3 rewards because I wanted that set because it's a pretty cool set.
It is.
I've got 2 pieces already, and I'm pretty close to having enough built up to where when I hit tier 5, I can just get it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So it's all about playing smart.
Yeah. I definitely recommend for someone working through the reputation system is hold off on the gear till you get to the top tier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I bought myself the slightly cheaper Romulan ground weapons just because I thought, hey, I want to put this on my Riemann guy, and I was like, man, I wish I'd waited. The other one's cooler.
Yeah.
So.
And it's all on StowWiki.
Yeah.
How much
a great resource.
Cost. Yeah, it's a great resource. And so I was able to figure it out.
Plan out what you want to do.
Plan out what I wanted. Yeah. And I probably will do the same thing to the Tholian rep on Nukara.
I kind of want like that. That's going to be rough for me because I don't like the Nukara missions. I like Nukara. I like the ferry. I like going to the Borg invasion. I like it out there. That one's kind of fun to me, but I don't like Nukara for some reason.
Maybe you'll have to take me out there because I have not been to the Deferi one.
I've
got a gal that's T1 Omega rep,
and
I'd like to get that higher, but I'm not a fan of the STFs, frankly.
Yeah, the zone is incredibly similar to Nukara, where you've got easy missions and medium and hard, and they reward in a very similar way that that Nukara supposedly does, and that I've seen it rewarding on Tribbles. So yeah.
Now I should point out because anytime I think about the Omega rep, I think, why aren't those armors in the Foundry?
Why aren't any armors in the Foundry?
Or any armors. Of course, at the moment, we can, through that sort of weird NPC glitch with import, we can get the player armors, the ones that we've had forever, which I've never really thought looked all that great, frankly.
Oh, but you can customize the colors, and it's so cool.
That's true. And I think I am going to utilize that.
Security squad.
Yeah. There's so many things that just aren't in the Foundry that I always run into in game. It's like, my God, why isn't this in the Foundry?
I want this in the Foundry.
We did get answers the other week on that, though, didn't we?
At least gives us some things to talk about.
That is true.
Every week we can say, I want this. Why don't we have this yet? Yeah.
Well, final thoughts, anybody? Other than
the new Romulan faction is wonderful. People who right now are on the fence about whether they're going to like it or not, or they only want to play the bad guys and they're mad they don't get to play the Tal Shiar. If they haven't been on Tribble yet, and I've even seen people on Tribble who don't like it.
There are some.
But it's okay. It's like I said a few weeks ago. They don't have to design content to appeal to everyone, but really they knocked this one out of the park in my opinion, and I think a lot of people are going to be really happy. I'd say that's close to my final thoughts on the thing.
So I've heard it in the past. People say stuff in the Foundry blows away anything Cryptic has. Do you think that's still true?
Depends on what you're talking about.
It does depend on what you're talking about because I do still think that's true. Because there is still an aspect to anything that Cryptic does that has to be driven by systems and the way that systems are going to interact. And in the Foundry, because we have such limited tools and so few systems to interact, as it were, we have to focus more on story.
Yeah.
The options are focus on story or make grindy or exploity things. Whether you're focusing on story and you're really great at telling them, or whether you're focusing on story just because we all have stories inside of us that we really want to get out, and even if you're not the best storyteller, I'm glad that you're telling stories in the Foundry. There's just something more, I don't know, something more raw. The fact that we don't have all of those shinies makes things that people have done in the Foundry better, in my opinion.
And of course, when they manage to do something shiny with little...
I would rather play your mission 100 times than... yes, I enjoy the new Romulan stuff. I still think In the Shadow of Midas is better. I would give the new Romulan stuff 4 stars. I gave you 5.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot because I thought the new Romulan stuff was really good.
It is really good.
I think he's buttering you up to make you go faster on part 2.
Oh yeah, by the way, is part 2 done yet? No. That's what it comes down to.
And of course and the other thing is we haven't even seen all of it.
Yeah, and there's that. Yeah. Ask me again in
You've only seen up to level 10. We've seen up to level 20. Those of us who got it in before that bug.
Just wait until you get to Mind Games.
Mind Games, I've heard some criticism of it, but I think that was an excellent one. That's what
I don't know who wrote that, but that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Foundry, just because there's not as many tools, the authors that are telling great stories in the Foundry are being forced to do it without those great tools. And so the story and the characterization shines through even brighter. Like, as great as I think that new first officer is, he kind of, the first time I played through, Tovan, the first time that I played through there, he was kind of lost in me looking at everything and saying, wow, this is shiny and pretty, and wow, how did they make me do this? And all of, because there was so much to look at, I kind of lost a little bit of it the first time running through. I've run through the opening level of the tutorial twice because I stopped myself and said, I want to go back and actually experience this. So I did.
All right. Well, I think we'll call it a night right there.
Sure.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Blue, for joining us tonight.
Yep,
thank you, Blue.
It was great to have you on.
I like this international flavor we've had for the last few weeks. Let's keep that up.
Let's keep that up. All right. We'll say good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.